Hey, welcome to That Fabric Guy. I am Bas and this is part 2 of the Fabric Apps Rayfin episodes. And what you can see here on the screen is the first iteration of the New York City taxi analysis app that we've built. You could have seen that from last week. So the previous video that I published was on the creation of this image right here. If you have not seen that video before, I will strongly recommend you to press this card right here. And watch that video first before you continue with this one, because I go over setting up the entire app, the way that Rayfin works, how we prompt with Claude Code and Visual Studio Code, and everything that we need in order to create this app here in Fabric Apps. And now what we're going to do today is we're going to improve and make this a little bit better and easier on the eyes, because as you can see, it is moving around a lot. I thought that would be nice and cool to fly over the city and see the heat map change basically, so that we can see where the taxi trips are taking place. However, for analysis purposes, this is not really useful. So we are constantly moving around. You can easily lose your orientation. And because we have over 1 million buildings with all their 3D shape maps, heights and so on, it is a rather heavy app, and you see the stuttering that is taking place while we are flying over the city. So we're going to improve that today, and we're going to start by going into Visual Studio Code. And here we still have the same project as before. Let me zoom in a little bit. Let's just remove the terminal from there. Just make this full screen, because we're just going to prompt and vibe code the entire app today. First of all, I want to keep the data that we have in the same granularity that we have, but I'd rather have the map of New York City right here on the screen without the camera moving about. So that's what I'm going to ask for first. So I've created my prompt. I say change the map of New York City to a static map that when we look, that we just look down on, just like we do with all map applications. Remove the 3D buildings that we have, their references, their import. I want a clean code base. Then on the map, create a heat map that shows the number of taxi trips in that particular location by changing the color. Keep repeating the same timeline for the monthly trip counts and change the heat map accordingly. That's the same as it is in the current iteration of the app. And then allow the user to hover over locations with their mouse to see additional results, numbers, and otherwise a pop-up next to the mouse cursor with information on the borough and location name, the number of trips, and the average trip distance covered. This is a new calculation to take from the semantic model. Now let's see what it will come up with if we do this. And now I understand this is a rather big multi-step prompt that I've given to Claude. Usually it's easier to give single tasks in a prompt. However, with Opus 4.8 or maybe Opus 5, I'm not sure. It's Opus 5 that we're on right now. It should be smart enough and keep enough context in order to work towards an end goal with multiple tasks or subtasks. So yes, while giving the engine one task might be easier and probably a bit more accurate, I think that the model in this case will be good enough creating the multiple results that I'm asking for. It's inspecting the model, comparing model measures versus explicit average. Trip distance measure is a sum. It will compute the average explicitly, that's fine. It could have done trip distance divided by trip count. That should have done the trick. And then the mean average distance is 3.4 miles. Sounds good. And it's now working out the DAX query. Let's check the DAX query while it is vibing actually. I mean, we're vibe coding anyway. So let's see, we do summarize columns over the fact table, aggregation by pickup date, year and month. We do a row count and then the average of trip distance. Okay, so apparently Claude has finished changing the app. It has done a type check, 36 tests have passed, lint cleaning, build passes. What has changed? So it's now a static top-down map. It replaces the flight. There's now a fixed overhead view framing all 5 boroughs. No page normal pan and zoom. He disabled the drag rotate so it stays square on like a conventional map app. The 3D buildings are gone completely. It removed almost 300 files. That's good. So our disk dropped now from 34 megabytes to 1.8 megabytes. The heat map is the subject. And there's a hover tooltip following the cursor with borough name, zone pickups, average distance. It flips to the other side of the pointer near the viewport edges instead of splitting off. That's actually good. One thing worth knowing about the new measure is sum on average, blah, blah, blah. So despite the name, it can serve as a mean. It did the computation itself. All right, good. There's no street base map. The map is the zone core plat over water. New York City's shape is recognizable, but there are no roads, labels, landmarks. Adding those means putting map libra back plus external raster tiles, which is the CSP risk inside fabric iframe that I flagged when we first chose the stack. Let's publish this first and then see what we need from the map additionally. Okay, it has deployed the app. That's good. Static top down, and there's no view of it rendering. We know that. Okay, so let's hit view app. It's now connecting and loading 14 years of New York City pickups. And let's see what's going on. All right, here we are. This looks cool. It's a movable map. And now New York is visible. So we have Staten Island here in the south. Then we have Manhattan, which is, according to the heat map, very, very busy. And we have Central Park in here, which is interesting that apparently pickups are happening in Central Park. I've been to New York now 3 or 4 times. Never ever thought of taking a taxi from Central Park. And then the other boroughs are very busy, but mainly in the western parts of Brooklyn. And also in Queens. That makes sense because those are the more central areas of the city. And we can zoom in and out again. But this is just over water. Okay, so maybe to change this a little bit better, we should create a slight angle, and we should create, almost as if they are skyscrapers, we should create columns on the map instead of a heat map. Let's change that. So we go back into Visual Studio Code, and we're going to ask Claude for these changes. Okay, so my prompt is ready. I've said, now go back into the map and look down at the slight angle so that the heights will be perceivable. Then remove the heat maps and change the columns on the map. These will look like skyscrapers. Higher columns indicate higher taxi trip counts. There we go. All right, there we are. We changed the pitch to, let's see, 48 degrees. The columns read as heights rather than dots, and I re-enabled drag rotate. Rotation is meaningful now that there's vertical extent, so you can orbit to judge heights against each other. Heat map is removed. Columns is 1 square tower per zone at its centroid. That's cool. And they are area weighted, that's fine. And then the scaling decision, blah, blah, blah. This is all good. Let's publish. Okay, it is published, so let's see what we're dealing with. When we refresh the app, it's connecting, loading, and doing everything it should. And now this loading here is what takes most of the time, unfortunately. There we are. All right. We can zoom in. This is cool. And here we see, we see mainly the things in New York change, and then we have LaGuardia here, probably. Yeah, that's LaGuardia Airport indeed. And then we should have JFK Airport to the south. This is over here. And of course the airports will be seeing larger than usual pickup numbers. And so it's mainly Manhattan and the airports that we see, and the others are just dots that are not really moving a lot. I mean, that's fine. This is all cool. And how did we do? So we can drag and rotate as well. And this is all pretty cool. I kind of like this. Maybe not as the end result, but I do like how we can, by just prompting a few sentences into Visual Studio Code and Claude Code, how we can create different iterations of the moving map like we have done here. Probably we can use OpenStreetMaps to do a regular map with streets and landmarks. We can probably even do, I don't know, Pokemon style maps, whatever. So this was just the second part of the Fabric Rayfin apps episode, where we look at how we can simply vibe and ask for changes to our app, hit publish, and then we see in real time that our app is changing. So this is rather cool, and I'm super happy. I also want to know what you are creating with Fabric apps, so let me know in the comments down below. If you are not creating anything but you have a question, let me know in the comments down below. And if you like this video, press thumbs up, because giving me a follow is what helps this channel grow, and with a bigger channel I can reach more people teaching you about Fabric every week. With that said, I'll see you next week. Ciao, ciao.